At my son's wedding, he revealed an incredible truth: his mother-in-law is his real mom. Jack stood in front of the bathroom mirror, his hand trembling as he adjusted his tie. The early morning sunlight crept through the window, illuminating the small, cluttered space, filled with remnants of life since Michelle's passing. 5 years had turned into a blur of single parenting. Every ounce of his energy had been poured into raising Ethan, ensuring that they made every moment count. Today was monumental, and his heart swelled with pride mixed with a bittersweet ache. Ethan was getting married. The thought alone filled him with a whirlwind of memories: their late-night talks, laughter, and long walks trying to piece together what life looked like without Michelle. Jack had fought hard to keep his family together, navigating through grief and working multiple jobs to provide for his son. As he took a moment to steady his breath, Jack felt the weight of the sacrifices he had made, the love he had poured, and the nurturing spirit of the American dream he hoped to instill in Ethan. The church was alive with warmth and laughter, a familiar hub of friends and family. People he'd known for years filled the pews, voices rising in happy murmurs. The scent of flowers filled the air, adding a delicate sweetness to the atmosphere. Jack watched as relatives hugged, sharing stories thick with nostalgia. They poured love into this moment, a testament to what family should be. The music played softly, building anticipation for the ceremony. Then, everything shifted during the vows. Jack's heart skipped when he saw Ethan standing tall, looking debonair and happy, but a knot tightened in his chest as he felt a rippling unease. "Mom," Ethan began. Jack's breath caught as he braced himself for something profound. "You've been my real mom all along. I'm so grateful for you being there for me since birth." The gasp from the audience swept through the room like wildfire, flashes of shock and confusion cascading through the guests. Jack's world shattered into fragments. Images of cradling his infant son flooded back, fueling a mix of anger and disbelief. The unyielding bond he thought they shared felt suddenly fragile. Hurt surged through him at the realization that Ethan had kept this hidden, torn between two families, complicating the very definition of love. Linda sat in the front row, stricken. She'd always supported them, but now she found herself in the eye of a storm, dealing with the stain of loyalty and tradition against the chaos of honesty. The weight of unspoken words loomed heavy in the air. Jack caught her eye, and the pain mirrored in her expression brought a million questions crashing into him. The surrounding crowd buzzed with a mix of support and judgment. Jack clenched his fists, mind battling with his emotions. Did this mean he was only a caretaker, a placeholder? The thought twisted painfully inside him. Ethan wanted acceptance, and yet here they stood on a day meant to celebrate love, grappling with the threads that connected them all. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's heart raced as he considered the future, a path stained with difficult choices, yet yearning to remain the father Ethan needed. How could they navigate this treacherous terrain of emotions, identity, and family loyalty together? As laughter enveloped them and vows hung like beautiful promises in the air, Jack stood at an emotional fork in the road. Would love be strong enough to heal the fractures of betrayal? Could he find a way to rebuild? The answer felt suspended in the air, an ache for clarity looming as the ceremony continued, leaving him desperate for a hope he couldn't yet define. Ethan had just spoken those words, and in that instant, the air thickened with tension. Jack's heart hammered in his chest, a mix of disbelief and heartbreak clawing at him. He felt the eyes of the guests piercing through him, some bewildered, others sympathetic. The world outside the church faded, and all that remained was the tumult within him: questions, doubts, and a desperate yearning for connection with the son he loved. As the vows continued, Jack stood frozen. The facade of the day, filled with floral arrangements and joyous laughter, suddenly felt like a cruel joke. He had poured everything into being Ethan's father, believing that his love was enough. Yet now, he felt like a stranger in his own child's life. How could this be, he wondered. How could the very foundation of their relationship have been built on secrets? Just then, Ethan turned to him, vulnerability shining through his proud exterior. "Dad," he said, almost pleading. "I need you to understand." His eyes held a mixture of fear and hope, desperately searching for reassurance amidst the unfolding chaos. Jack swallowed hard. "Understand what, Ethan?" The words slipped out before he could stop them, edged with anguish. "That I was never really your dad? That you've been caught between two worlds?" The quiet tension in the church swelled around them like a storm waiting to break. Ethan took a deep breath, glancing at Linda, who sat on the edge of her seat, her hands clasped tightly. Jack noticed the flicker of anxiety cross her face, a silent understanding shared between them. Had she known all along? The world of their family felt split as fresh questions bubbled beneath the surface. "Please," Ethan continued, voice steady despite the tremor beneath it. "My relationship with you, it hasn't changed. You have always been my dad. You have always been there for me." His words were earnest, a bridge extended towards Jack, yet Jack could feel the weight of the truth hanging heavily on both of them. Silence draped the church, thick and oppressive. Jack took a step back, uncertainty flooding his mind. Could they move forward from this? Could love bridge the gulf created by secrets long buried? The promise of the wedding, once bright, now felt eerily overshadowed by the revelation that lingered like a dark cloud. The ceremony continued, but Jack felt disconnected, trapped in a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. He glanced at Linda again. A moment passed, and she stood to speak, her voice quivering. "Ethan, we need to talk about this after." Her expression was a blend of concern and an unyielding courage. It was as if she sensed the world teetering on the brink, and she was ready to take the plunge with them. Jack felt a surge of protectiveness over Ethan. "No," he interjected, his own voice stronger than he willingly intended. "We need to talk now. It's clear we can't keep pretending like this is just another wedding." Ethan's shoulders slumped, hurt flashing across his face. "I never wanted to hurt you, Dad. Just try to understand my feelings." The guest shifted uncomfortably, the air crisp with tension. As Jack locked eyes with his son, something shifted in him. A deep-rooted instinct made him realize that while they were standing on shaky ground, their love didn't have to crumble with the weight of revelation. "Ethan," Jack began, emotions welling up in his throat. "You mean the world to me. Whatever the truth is, I want us to navigate it together." His heart was heavy, yet there was a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, healing was possible. As Ethan's expression softened, the music shifted to a hopeful melody that began to fill the room. Jack inhaled deeply, ready to embrace the complicated path ahead. As the crowd awaited the next turn in this unexpected journey, will Jack find the strength to embrace this new family dynamic? Or will the truth weigh too heavily on their hearts? The next chapter would reveal the deeper, unraveling truths lurking beneath the surface. Jack's heart raced as he felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The wedding ceremony, so beautifully orchestrated just moments ago, now felt like a fragile glass sculpture teetering on the edge of a cliff. What had started as a day of joy was unraveling into a tapestry of hidden truths. He searched his son's face for signs of reassurance, yet all he saw was a blend of fear and determination mirrored back at him. Ethan's gaze was steady, full of the love that had always been there. "Dad, I know this is a lot to take in. But I need you to believe that none of this changes what we've always shared." A spark of hope glimmered in Ethan's eyes, urging Jack to find a way through the confusion. Jack felt himself nodding, though doubt still wrapped around his chest like a vice. "You're saying that the love we've built means something, but how can it when I'm not really your dad?" The words came out in a raw whisper, a stab of pain slicing through him. Linda shifted in her seat, her breath hitching as if she felt the tides shifting in the room. "Jack, we don't have to understand it all right now," she said gently, reaching for his hand. "What matters is that we can still move forward as a family. The love you both share can withstand this." But a different part of Jack wanted to scream that love wasn't enough to forge a path through the treacherous terrain of their newfound reality. Could he accept that the boy he raised might have belonged to another? Would Ethan, now standing at a crossroads, forever have one foot in his mother's world and another in Jack's? Let us take a step back, Jack suggested suddenly, needing to regain some control over the chaos simmering just beneath the surface. We need to process this without the pressures of a wedding. The crowd, sensing the raw tension, became a sea of hushed murmurs, faces filled with confusion. Jack's voice echoed softly, yet he felt the weight of every pair of eyes staring back at him. Maybe we can just talk, Ethan said, his voice laced with a hint of hope. No audience, just us. Please. Yeah, Linda agreed, her tone soothing. It's okay to take a moment. We can figure this out together. Jack turned to face his son completely, a rush of emotion flooding him. You've been my son in every way that matters to me. I need to understand how I fit into this new picture. A flicker of pain crossed Ethan's face before he steadied himself. I want you to know that this is my truth. I didn't want to hide. I thought you should hear it from me. You're still my dad. Jack swallowed hard, feeling the tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. He wanted to connect to bridge that chasm between their old life and this new truth. But how? Did they share a map to traverse this uncharted territory, or would they be left wandering endlessly? I can't just disregard what I thought was real, Jack said, his voice trembling. It's hard for me to grasp. I know, Ethan replied quietly. But just because my origins are complicated doesn't erase the love we have. That has always been real. Jack looked at Ethan, who was trying so hard not to break under the weight of everything. As the soft notes of music floated around them, he saw a connection flicker between them, a recognition that despite the revelations, there was still a bond forged through years of trust, laughter, and unspoken support. Maybe we need to reimagine our family, Linda suggested, her eyes warm and inviting. Embrace this for what it is, a chance to grow, to deepen our ties. A hush fell over the church as Jack took a step forward, extending his hand towards Ethan. Suddenly, he realized that love wasn't bound by blood, it was a choice, a promise he could continue to honor. In that moment of vulnerability, Ethan stepped into his father's embrace, tightening the space between them. Jack could feel the warmth radiating from his son, a reminder of the life they had shared, a life that still held the potential for joy, connection, and transformation. Their embrace felt like the beginning of something anew, yet Jack's heart still swirled with a myriad of questions. What changes lie ahead? How would they navigate this new landscape together? The ceremony was supposed to be the start of a new chapter, but now it felt like the first step into the unknown. As they pulled away, Jack's brow furrowed with uncertainty, but also with an emerging resolve. The future stretched out before them, daunting yet filled with possibility. What unfolded next could be either a bold new path or an unraveling of the very fabric of their family. Would they find a way to unite their disparate worlds? Or would the truth of Ethan's origins lay heavy on their hearts, threatening to tear them apart? The answers awaited in the silence that enveloped them, as the music faded and the crowd grew still, waiting for the next twist in their unfolding story. Jack could still feel Ethan's warmth lingering as they pulled apart. The moment weighed heavily on him, yet it was tinged with something he hadn't expected, a spark of hope. He looked around the church, noticing the curious glances of friends and family. They were all witnesses to a different kind of ceremony, now a rite of passage through adversity. The air was thick with unspoken questions, but Jack could only focus on the one that mattered. What can I do? He asked, his voice steadier than he felt. How can we start to make sense of this? Ethan took a breath, seeming to search for the right words. Let us take a trip somewhere, just the three of us. We can hash this out without distractions. It could be good for all of us. Linda's eyes lit up. That's a great idea. A weekend away might give us the space to breathe and really talk. Just the three of us, she said softly. Jack nodded, realizing he had never felt more like a protector than he did at that moment. All right, let us do it. I want to listen. I want to understand how we move forward, not just for us but for this whole family. He could see the relief wash over Ethan's face, and it gave him the strength he didn't know he possessed. As other guests began to whisper and shift in their seats, Jack took Ethan's hand in his. So, how about right after this? Ethan smiled, truly smiled. Yeah, let us get out of here. They stepped away from the crowd and into the sunlight. The world outside felt fresh and alive, a contrast to the weight of the conversation that loomed ahead. Jack inhaled deeply, feeling the warmth wash over him, but also a knot of apprehension rooted deep within. Once in the car, silence fell among them like an uninvited guest. Jack felt the gravity of their situation press down on him again and glanced at Ethan through the rearview mirror. Excitement and worry played in his son's eyes. "What are you feeling?" Jack asked, wanting to bridge the gap between them. "Just a little conversation could ease the tension." "I don't want you to feel like you have to put on a brave face for me," Ethan replied. "It's okay if you're scared or confused." Jack chuckled dryly, the sound surprisingly light. "I think scared might be an understatement." A moment of laughter floated between them, soothing, though Jack realized it was still fragile. The truth was, he wanted to be the father Ethan had always known, even if the parameters of their relationship had shifted. He aimed to help Ethan navigate the waters of his new reality. "Do you think," Jack began, hesitating as he wrestled with his own uncertainty, "that knowing your biological dad will change how you feel about us?" Ethan took a moment before answering. "I don't know, Dad. I just know that I have two families now, and that can be complicated. But, you'll always be my dad. No matter what." The sincerity in Ethan's voice settled Jack's heart, even if just for a moment. He wanted to believe it with every fiber of his being. "Then we'll figure this out together," Jack said, gripping the steering wheel a bit tighter. As they pulled away from the church and onto the highway, the road stretched out endlessly ahead. Each mile felt like a step more into the unknown. The questions nagged at Jack. How would they find harmony in this new version of their world? What did Ethan's history mean for their future? Just as the landscape began to change to lush trees and welcoming hills, Ethan broke the silence. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Anything," Jack replied. Ethan hesitated, then said, "What would you do if you met him, my real dad? How would you feel?" The question hung in the air, thick with emotional weight. Jack's heart raced again as images danced in his mind: fear, anger, a desire to protect. But then a small voice chimed in, one that reminded him of love and family. "I don't know, Ethan. I guess I do want to understand," he replied quietly, unsure. "But it's hard to imagine facing that reality." Ethan stayed quiet, staring out the window, lost in thoughts of his own. Jack's mind descended into a whirlpool of emotions. How could this transformation be a blessing instead of an unraveling? The drive continued, and the weight of uncertainty felt heavy. Jack yearned for clarity, but perhaps clarity was just another illusion. They were hurtling toward answers, yet the questions kept piling up. And with each passing moment, Jack realized they were on the brink of a discovery that could change everything. What awaited them at their destination? Would it bring healing or further complications? Jack's heart pounded, knowing they would soon find out. As the car sped along the winding road, Jack could feel the tension seeping from his son, yet he also felt the tight knot of anxiety in himself. He focused on the dashboard, the road signs whizzing by, hoping the wheels would somehow steer them toward understanding. Ethan shifted in his seat, glancing back at him again. "Hey, Dad. I know this is all new, but I'm really glad we're doing this together." His voice was quieter now, sincere. "Me too," Jack replied, though a wave of worry washed over him. How would this trip confront their shared struggle? They drove deeper into the mountains. The towering trees loomed as if they were entering a new world, a world that felt unfamiliar and yet filled with possibilities. As they finally reached the cabin, a rustic building nestled among the trees, Jack caught his breath. It felt like a sanctuary, away from prying eyes and expectations. Inside, the cabin was cozy, filled with a warmth that contrasted with the chill in the air outside. They dropped their bags with a thud, and Jack turned to face Ethan, who stood nervously, biting his lip. "Okay," Jack said, breaking the silence. "Now that we're here, what do you want to talk about?" Ethan shuffled his feet. "I think I just need to understand more about what this all means." Jack nodded, feeling the heaviness settle again. "Yeah, me too. I wish I had all the answers for you." I guess I just don't want to hurt anyone. I mean, I love you, and I can't imagine that changing, Ethan admitted, his voice quivering. Love is complicated, Jack said softly, feeling the weight of those words. It can stretch and grow, but it doesn't have to disappear. Just because you have a biological dad doesn't mean there's less love for us. Ethan nodded slowly, still staring at the floor. But what if it does? What if I want to know him? What if he wants to know me? The questions hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. Jack's heart sank, and he felt a mixture of longing and trepidation. Would he ever truly accept this new truth? Ethan, I wish I could shield you from the pain of it all, Jack said, his voice trembling. But if knowing him is important to you, then how can I stand in your way? He paused, struggling to find the right words. I just want you to be happy, no matter what that looks like. Ethan's eyes lit up, a flicker of hope igniting in the depths. So, it's okay to want to meet him then? Jack sighed, feeling the ache of vulnerability. If that's what you truly want, yes. But let us talk about it. Let us figure this out together. The air felt lighter suddenly, both knew they were moving into uncharted territory. A unity was forming amidst the chaos, a bond tested yet still intact. Hey, can we talk about it more while hiking tomorrow? I don't want to have this big talk all at once. Ethan suggested. Of course. We can tackle it bit by bit, Jack said, grateful for the invitation to ease into the conversation. Later that evening, they sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. The breathtaking scenery kept them both captivated, yet Jack's mind remained restless. Dad, Ethan started, a hint of hesitation in his voice. What is it? Jack turned to him, sensing the weight of another question looming. What if he doesn't want me? What if everything we talked about it's too much? Jack's heart gave a hard lurch at that thought. Then we tackle that too. Together. No matter what happens next. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, a chill breeze swept through the trees. Jack suddenly had the feeling that something was shifting, as if the winds of change were whispering secrets just out of reach. What would tomorrow bring on that hike? Would they finally uncover the truth that could change their lives forever? Jack's gut told him they were inching closer to something monumental. The next morning, dawn broke gently over the mountains, stretching warm light across the cabin. Jack woke to the golden rays streaming through the window, illuminating the soft, worn furniture that held the whispered stories of families who had come before them. He could hear Ethan stirring in the other room, the shuffling of feet signaling nerves and anticipation. After a quick breakfast of toast and coffee, they set out for their hike. The air was crisp and filled with the fresh scent of pine needles and damp earth, a perfect backdrop for the conversation looming ahead. Jack felt the weight of the day settle on his shoulders, the promise of uncertainty mixed with the hope that they would come through it stronger. As they climbed the narrow path surrounded by towering trees, Ethan walked beside him, glancing up with a determined expression. It was clear that the serenity of nature couldn't erase the uncertainty they felt. Dad? Ethan finally broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. Yeah? Jack responded, adjusting his pace to match Ethan's. I've been thinking. When I meet him, what am I supposed to say? There was a brief pause before he continued. It's like, how do you even start? Like, hey, I'm your son, just sounds so weird. Jack chuckled lightly, though inside he felt the seriousness of Ethan's words. I guess it is weird, but you're just being honest. You might just start with how you feel. Maybe even mention how much you've thought about him. Yeah, but what if he doesn't care? What if it's like, too late or something? Ethan's voice wavered, revealing the fear he kept buried. Then you'll know. And you'll find a way to handle that, just like you always do. But at least you'll have tried. Jack paused, searching for the right words to bring Ethan comfort. It can be terrifying to walk into the unknown. But I promise, you're not alone, I'm right here with you. No matter what happens. Ethan slowed, his eyes scanning the forest. Sunlight dappled the ground, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves above, as if nature was urging them to keep moving forward. You really mean that, right? Absolutely, Jack affirmed, feeling the truth of it resonate in his heart. This journey is just as much about you as it is about me. I'll always support you. Reassured, they continued their hike, the path winding between the trees. Each step felt liberating, the exercise clearing the air between them. They talked about trivial things, the shape of clouds, the chirping of birds, anything that felt safe. But deep down, they both knew the real discussion was still ahead. At a small clearing, they stopped, overlooking a valley bathed in sunlight. The sight was breathtaking, a vast, untamed landscape that reflected the emotions swarming in Jack's heart. He turned to Ethan, ready to dive deeper. Ethan, when you think about meeting him, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Ethan stared off into the distance, his brow furrowing in thought. I guess, closure. Or maybe it's just figuring out why he left. Jack's heart raced. That makes sense. It's okay to have those feelings. You deserve answers. Yeah, Ethan trailed off, looking vulnerable but determined. I just wonder if I'll be okay afterward. What if it changes everything? The question hung heavy in the air. It was a fear Jack couldn't dismiss. It might change things, but change isn't always bad. Sometimes it leads to new beginnings. You might discover pieces of yourself you never knew existed. Ethan nodded, absorbing his father's words. But Jack saw the worry still brewing in his son's eyes. It was a moment of truth, standing on the edge of their journey, staring into the unknown. As they resumed walking, a sense of urgency settled over Jack. They were drawn closer to the moment of decision, where everything might shift. Could they find strength in the uncertainty? Then, just as they reached a rocky outcrop, a figure appeared in the distance, a man standing alone beneath the trees, the silhouette just barely distinguishable. Jack's breath caught in his throat. Who was this stranger, and how? Would Ethan react? What would happen next? The figure drew closer, and Jack's heart raced with each step they took toward the stranger. Ethan's eyes widened, and he instinctively took a half-step back, as if trying to retreat from the sudden weight of the moment. Dad, Ethan stammered, his voice trembling. That looks like nobody said it would be easy, but remember what we talked about, Jack urged quietly, urgency lacing his tone. He felt the ground beneath him shift, the world narrowing to this one pivotal encounter. The man appeared older than Jack had imagined, a hint of silver threaded through his hair, and a worn face that spoke of experiences etched deeply over time. Jack couldn't help but think of all those years that had passed, the moments lost in time. As they approached, the stranger's expression shifted from confusion to a cautious recognition. Ethan? He said, his voice barely louder than a breeze, yet heavy with a kind of gravity. Jack felt Ethan freeze beside him. This was it. The moment he fantasized about and feared in equal measure. Jack rested a hand on Ethan's back, silently urging him forward. Yeah, I'm Ethan. His son's voice was small but steady. I think I'm your son. The weight of those words hung in the air, reverberating like a distant echo. The man blinked slowly, taking a moment to process, as if the words themselves needed time to digest. Jack stole a glance at Ethan, seeing the mix of determination and vulnerability on his face. The man began, shaking his head as if snapping out of a trance. I wasn't expecting this. Not now. Or here. He looked at Jack, searching for clarity. Who are you? This is my dad, Jack, Ethan replied, his eyes flickering back and forth between the two men, a slight tremor betraying his composure. Jack stepped forward, feeling the pressing need to diffuse the tension, the estrangement that throbbed between them. I'd been with Ethan since he was born, but we felt it was time for him to meet you. To finally get some answers. There was an awkward silence as the three stood there, a chasm of unspoken words and emotions spreading wide. Jack could see the man grappling with confusion, regret, and something deeper that he couldn't quite name. You're looking for answers? The man finally asked, his voice layered with hesitance. I'm not sure I can provide them. It wasn't just one choice that led me away. Ethan's chest rose and fell rapidly, his jaw tightening. Jack could feel the tension radiate off him. This was a moment they could either sink or swim in. Maybe we start with why, Jack suggested gently, glancing sideways at Ethan for reassurance. For him, it's not about blaming you. Just understanding. Ethan nodded slowly, summoning every ounce of courage he possessed. I just want to know why you left. What happened? The man shifted uncomfortably, glancing down at the ground, as if the earth itself held the answers. It's complicated, he murmured, pain flickering in his eyes. There was so much I didn't understand back then. I was scared. The confession weighed heavily in the air, and Jack took a breath, hoping that honesty would be a bridge between hurt and healing. We can try to understand, but you have to let us in, Jack said softly, invitingly. Ethan shifted from foot to foot, vulnerability surfacing in his eyes as he gripped the strap of his backpack tightly. I guess I just need to know that I'm not forgotten. For a moment, the stranger's gaze turned softer, the protective barrier slowly beginning to dissolve. It was the beginning, but where would it lead? Suddenly, Jack's phone buzzed with a message, a jarring intrusion into the fragile moment. He glanced at the screen, noticing the incoming text. It was from a number he didn't recognize, but just reading the few words caused a chill to race down his spine. We need to talk. It's important. He looked up sharply, realizing the moment of truth was much bigger than any of them could anticipate. What now? Jack breathed, his gaze darting between Ethan and the stranger. Would their hearts be ready for whatever lay ahead? In that moment, everything felt poised on the edge of something monumental. The air crackled with anticipation. Jack's mind raced, the weight of unanswered questions hanging heavier than ever. Matthew, the stranger, stood as if caught between two worlds, his future with his son and the past that had haunted him. Jack felt the vibrating phone pulse in his hand, grounding him in reality as uncertainty swirled. Something deep within him urged him to prioritize this moment, but the unsettling message loomed over them all. Ethan, Jack said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions thrumming inside him, we need to face this together. Ethan nodded slowly, but worry shadowed his blue eyes. Jack sensed the fear beneath his son's determination. Would the truth they sought be a way towards healing or just more heartache? Matthew shifted, his hands curling into fists, an all too familiar tension tightening around him. I never intended to walk away. I was young, messed up, trying to figure things out. Scared of what being a father meant. I thought I was protecting you by staying away. He shook his head, anguish spilling from his features. But I didn't realize then how much it would hurt. Every word chipped away at the wall that held Ethan's heart. Jack watched as the boy's brave facade quivered, reality seeping in. Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you try? Ethan demanded, his voice a mix of pain and pleading. I thought you'd be better off without me, Matthew replied, his voice cracking. That you'd be happier with me out of the picture. I realize now how wrong I was. I was a coward. Jack wished he could shield Ethan from the hurtful revelations. Matthew, you've lost years, but that doesn't change the present. You still have a chance. Is it too late? Matthew interrupted, his eyes pleading with both Jack and Ethan. Can we start over? Ethan took a step back, the gravity of the situation tumbling down like flurries of snow, soft yet sharp. You might want to start by telling me about my mom. My real mom. The question lingered in the air, heavy and charged. Jack held his breath, uncertain of the answer that Matthew might offer. The truth felt elusive, swirling just out of reach. Matthew opened his mouth, faltering as he searched for the right words, but only silence filled the gap. Finally, he looked Ethan directly in the eyes. Your mother, she was everything to me. I didn't walk away just from you, I ran from my own failures as a man, as a partner. Jack felt the emotional tide shift, and he waited for the dam to break. The trembling air around them seemed to hold on to every moment tightly. Ethan shifted again, frustration etching deeper lines across his face. So, you just left without knowing how to do better? You just disappeared? It wasn't that simple, Matthew insisted, desperation clawing at his tone. There were circumstances, things you wouldn't understand. Your mom she needed space. I thought I was being respectful, but I was wrong. Wrong how? Ethan pushed, voice rising. What do you even know? What do you think you can give me now? As tension swirled in the small space between them, Jack felt the vibrancy of Ethan's emotions, raw and unfiltered. It reminded him of the first time he'd held Ethan in his arms, a tiny life filled with potential but also pain. Ethan, Jack said softly, trying to anchor the moment, this is a lot. We can take a breath. We can step back and regroup. But the urgency in Ethan's eyes suggested he wasn't ready for that kind of pause. No. I need to know. Before Matthew could respond, Jack's phone buzzed again, this time vibrating violently against his palm. He didn't need to check it to know it was the same number. All of a sudden, he felt as if he was in the center of a storm, the winds closing in fast. Well? Matthew challenged, eyes darting to Jack with an intensity that was foreboding. What was that? Jack looked between Ethan and Matthew, the confusion uncoiling deeper. It can wait, but maybe it can't. We need to figure this out. Maybe it holds answers about your mother too, Ethan. As the air thickened with uncertainty, Jack wondered if they were ready for the truths waiting to be uncovered. The next moment could arrive on the wings of revelation or with the weight of despair. What else could this shared truth unravel? Jack took a deep breath, the bitter taste of uncertainty settling in his throat. The phone continued to pulse in his hand, demanding attention. He glanced at Ethan, whose eyes flickered with both rage and desperation. The boy stood there, braced for whatever reality shattered the fragile world he'd known. He needed answers, and Jack felt like a helpless bystander in this whirlwind of emotions. Ethan, listen, Jack started, his voice steady, I know this is a lot. But we need to be careful how we tread these waters. We don't know what those messages can stir up. Ethan shot him a look that said it all. How could he possibly prioritize caution now? This isn't about being careful, Dad. This is about my life. My past. I can't move forward until I know the truth. Matthew looked equally torn, caught between wanting to shield Ethan and the urgency of revealing long-buried secrets. I need to know too, he interjected, his voice steadying. About your mother. I owe you that much. Jack nodded, sensing a shift he couldn't ignore. All right, let us focus on this together. What do you know about her? About what happened between you two? Your mother. Matthew hesitated, as if envisioning a road littered with landmines. She was vibrant and full of dreams. We had plans, big plans. But everything unraveled when life threw us the hardest curveballs. Ethan took a step forward, the weight of curiosity pulling him in. What plans? Why did it fall apart? Was it me? No. Never you. Matthew exclaimed, his words rushing out. You are the best thing in my life. But we were young, and I made choices. Stupid choices. I let fear guide me instead of love. The words hung amid the tension, heavy with sorrow. Jack felt his heart pounding for both the man and the boy in front of him. For Ethan, the boy who had lost so much and longed for connection. Just tell me the truth about my mother. Ethan's voice was slightly trembling now, vulnerability creeping in. Was it a mistake? Was I a burden? Matthew stepped closer, the anguish etched on his face becoming clearer. No, Ethan. You were never a burden. Your mother loved you more than anything. She fought battles I wasn't strong enough to face. Then where is she? Ethan pressed, anger flaring, desperation pulsating. Why isn't she here? A silence fell, thick and suffocating. Jack's heart sank as the truth started to unfold, the reality of past scars weaving through the air like an invisible fog. It was more than just absence, it was abandonment that lingered like bitter memories. I thought she needed time, Matthew whispered, but that time turned into forever. Jack could see the color drain from Ethan's face, confusion battling with the need for understanding. What does that even mean? After I left, she changed. I didn't know how to reach her. I thought if I stayed away, I wouldn't hurt her anymore. But I ended up losing both of you, Matthew admitted, his guilt weighing heavily. As the truth spilled out, Jack felt the urge to reach out, to grab Ethan's shoulder in comfort, but he hesitated, unsure if he'd be met with resistance. Ethan's eyes glistened, the fight slipping away, leaving a boy who just wanted a glimpse of his mother. The phone buzzed once more, drowning out the silence. This time, Jack felt a shiver of urgency. He looked down, the number glaring back at him, an angry reminder of the past intertwined with this fragile moment. Ethan, if this is about your mom, we can't keep ignoring it. Matthew took a breath, seeming to transform before their eyes. We owe it to her and to you to uncover whatever this is. Ethan clenched his fists, staring off into the distance, conflicted emotions battling for dominance. I want to know, but what if it only brings more pain? As Jack felt the weight of the moment settle between them, he recognized the battle raging within his son's heart. Hope and fear, entwined like vines, threatening to choke out the light. Whatever the truth is, we will face it together, Jack declared, conviction rising in his chest. It's our choice how we move forward. Ethan's gaze hardened, determination breaking through the shadows. Then let us find out what we all deserve to know. We can't keep living in the dark. And with that, the air around them shifted once more, thick with anticipation. As Jack pressed the button to answer the call, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay ahead would change everything, but a new question hung in the air. Were they prepared for the truth that was about to unravel? The air crackled with anticipation, heavy with the weight of secrets. Jack felt the pulse of Ethan's heartbeat next to him as he reached for his phone, the screen glowing ominously. It had been buzzing for too long. Leaning in, he answered, bracing himself for whatever revelations were about to unfold. Hello? He said, voice firm but laced with trepidation. Jack. It's Linda, came the voice on the other end, tense and urgent. We need to talk. You and Ethan, you have to sit down, I have news. Ethan's brow furrowed, and Jack felt anxiety gnawing at him. What is it? Is everything all right? It's about Michelle, Linda said, pausing as if weighing the gravity of her words. I've been keeping something from you. You need to hear this. Now. Something shifted in Ethan, a palpable sense of unease. What is it? He asked, tension threading through his voice. Jack's stomach sank. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. The weight of the past surged forward, unraveling threads of loss and heartache. We'll be there soon, Jack replied, ending the call, but the unease lingered like a dark cloud. We have to go back, Jack said, glancing at Ethan full of resolve, yet unsure of what awaited them. He sensed the veil of uncertainty looming over them, stretching thin, barely holding together the pieces of their fragile world. Ethan stood still, uncertainty etching lines on his face. Do you think this is about my mom? His voice was steady, but Jack could hear the crack of vulnerability hiding beneath. I don't know. But it might be, Jack said, resolving to protect his son even in the face of the unknown. We can find clarity there. We have to face whatever this news is, as a family. They drove through winding roads, the trees morphing into a blurred backdrop of green. Jack glanced at Ethan occasionally, allowing the sound of tires against the pavement to fill the silence. Dad? Ethan finally asked, breaking the stillness. Do you think this changes how we feel about each other? What we've built? Jack steadied his breath. No matter what we learn, what you've always been to me doesn't change. You're my son, and I'm proud of you. A brief smile flickered across Ethan's face, a glimmer of hope amidst the storm. Arriving at the familiar house, Jack's heart raced. Once a home filled with laughter, it now stood as a reminder of what they had lost. Standing hand in hand, father and son exchanged glances filled with understanding. They were not just entering a house, they were stepping into a chapter they could rewrite together. Linda opened the door, her face a mixture of concern and determination. Come in, she urged, motioning them forward. As they took a seat, the silence enveloped them, growing thicker, almost suffocating. Linda's hands trembled on the table, and Jack felt Ethan stiffen at his side. Finally, Linda spoke, her voice breaking the stillness. "Jack, when Michelle passed, she left behind something. In her will, she mentioned wanting you both to know the truth." Ethan's eyes widened. "What truth?" "It has to do with your mother. You were given up under circumstances that no one wanted to share, and not everything was how it seemed," Linda explained, her tone softening. "I couldn't bring myself to tell you sooner. It was her choice to protect you from pain, but it's time for the truth to come to light." Jack held Ethan's hand tighter, sensing the tremor of emotions running deep. "Linda, are you saying there was more to her story?" Linda nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Michelle faced struggles nobody saw. She didn't just leave, it was more complicated than that. She wanted you to hear everything directly." "What do you mean by that?" Ethan asked quietly, urgency creeping into his voice. Linda breathed deeply, the weight of the moment crashing over them. "She had plans to return, to tell you both everything. But she got sick, and in her final months, she was afraid it would hurt you more than help." Jack felt tears welling up at the thought of Michelle, her warmth, her laughter. "I can't believe she would keep this from us," he said softly. "She loved you both fiercely," Linda assured. "Even in her absence, she was always there, fighting an unseen battle." Ethan's voice shook. "So, what was the truth? Where do we fit in this?" In that moment, Jack felt a rush of equal parts anguish and hope for the future. They were on the precipice of discovery, finally beginning to tread upon the path Michelle had wanted them to walk together. Linda looked at each of them, her heart bared. "Whatever that truth may be, it doesn't mean you lose her love, or the bond you shared." A profound silence fell, and for the first time, Jack sensed something shift within Ethan, a quiet acceptance of the journey that lay ahead. "Can we secure her memories without breaking what we have now?" Ethan whispered, glancing at Jack. "Yes, absolutely," Jack responded firmly, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead with Ethan at his side. And as they shared their anticipation for the truths waiting to unfold, Jack realized that while the past could never be changed, together, with love, they could carve a future filled with understanding, strength, and renewal. The darkness that had hung in the air finally lifted, illuminating the path before them, ready to embrace a shared journey that could redefine their future, ushering in hope where despair had once reigned. As they took a deep collective breath, they understood deeply that family not defined solely by origin, but by love could weather any storm. And with that revelation, a new chapter began, filled with endless possibilities. Now is your moment to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Comment your feelings about this emotional ending. Your thoughts matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together.